Neal gives me rocking chair vibes, like he's got rocking chairs on his porch. I hope it's true.
No.
Like those stories with Rachel, I imagine you guys on rocking chairs.
No.
Till 4 a.m.
No, standard chairs. Yeah. I am but 43. Not that rocking chair is exclusively
Absolutely.
elderly in nature.
Have you been to
What about me gives you rocking chair vibes?
Have you been to a Cracker Barrel?
Yeah, big time.
I love those.
Yeah. Bought a horseshoe puzzle one time.
Well, there you go. Then you're definitely a rocking chair guy.
No. It was in the children's section.
Oh.
It's this ring. 2 horseshoes are connected by chain, and there's a ring in the middle, and you've got to get this ring.
Oh yeah.
Out of there.
Yeah.
And it's this whole move that they do.
Oh yeah. That'll get you.
What didn't? I immediately got it.
I'm brilliant.
Not brilliant. I'm just not 5. Once again.
Oh yeah.
It was in the children's section.
It was next to that thing that the ferret that you charge up and it goes around the floor.
Yeah.
The ferret with the ball attached
The ferret
to
with
it.
the ball. Oh man, I used to love those.
Henry had a light up sword that we got, plastic LED light up sword that we got from Cracker Barrel, and he broke it in like an hour and a half because it was from Cracker Barrel and he was a kid, and
It's an off-brand lightsaber.
It really was, yeah. And so he had quit playing with it, and like 3-4 months goes by. And when I was on vacation, I went to Giant Eagle right by Cracker Barrel over in Sheffield Village. And I was like, I'm going to go in there and see if they have it. And they didn't. But I was reminded of just how much junk is in that store.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable. And I say junk, nobody, I suppose, needs it. But the candy section is unbelievable. I mean, they've got every fudge one could desire. And these weird candy bars that no one's ever heard of.
Razzles.
Is that one?
Razzles.
Dude, Razzles are awesome.
They're gum. You got to be careful.
Wait, are Razzles the gum?
They're the gum. I know exactly. You ate them all, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I thought Razzles was the thing that, like, it's like a
Razzles
candy
was
with,
a Rollerino when I was a kid.
Really?
No.
I may be
so
completely
confused by
mistaken.
everything that's happening.
But I'm sure I remember Razzles being like the circular Lego-looking candies. They get the little dimples on top like Legos.
Oh, yeah.
But it turns into gum.
Yes.
Is it good?
But it's dangerous. My memory is like 8 years old. They're pretty good.
Okay.
But you've got the memory of an elephant, so.
But I've got the memory of an elephant, yeah.
This is my problem with blow pops.
Yeah. Oh, it's like a blow pop, yeah.
And the gum's just awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
That's
that
right.
work to get
It's like
to that gum.
it's like zebra stripes.
Yeah. It's more novel than functional.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm realizing right now is that the blow pop candy portion of it, the sucker portion of it, is probably just so packed full of sugar that you've just been taking in all of that sugar, so your brain has just gotten very used to that sweetness, and then you get to that gum, and it's just a powdered, chalky mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe if I had the gum outside of the blow pop separately, I would like to make a reverse blow pop.
Wow.
Reverse blow pop.
So it's gum on
That's
the
what they called me in
outside,
high
and you
school.
get to the hard candy on the inside.
Reverse blow pop, was that your rap name?
It is now.
Yeah. It would be a pop blow.
What's up, Detroit?
Reverse
It's
blow
like the
pop in the
worst.
house.
It's like the worst stage name I've ever heard.
Yeah. So Cracker Barrel.
So Cracker Barrel. Speaking of Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
What are the sponsors that we're shouting out at the top of the show?
I think Connect
Cracker
Conference.
Barrel?
Connect Conference is sponsoring this episode of the podcast, right?
That's good. I almost put on the T-shirt that Chad so graciously allowed me to have once everyone else got one.
I thought about
Yeah.
it too,
Yeah.
but then you'd be the odd man out.
Oh, that's true. We could have done that.
We
I
could
think
have.
there were
next
only
time.
there were 2 smalls and an XL left.
Oh, yeah.
So
You should have worn the
It
small.
wouldn't have looked good. It wouldn't have been ideal. You should have worn the small.
on which leg?
Right. Oh, no.
On which leg?
Fantastic.
We
Figured it
are
out.
not sponsored.
Not
The trim
sponsored
is
yet?
Not sponsored.
It
No.
is not.
If there was a sponsor for the show, which ones would you guys choose? No, wait. Let's do this. Let's choose. Let's think
We
of.
got ourselves a Jeff Goldblum over here.
Yeah,
hijacking.
apparently hijacking the show.
Do you
This
even
isn't
need
the
us
format.
here, Chad? Do you want us to take off?
Absolutely. Well, let's do this. Let's guess what each other would choose for the sponsor of this show. How well do we know each other's brands?
Ooh.
Oh, I see. Based on brand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I'm sure you look at me and you think they would be sponsored by rocking chairs.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Good
Not
for you.
anymore. I'm gonna go with for you. It would be the bug bite thing.
Oh,
from
there we
Shark
go.
Tank.
Yeah.
You've really been talking that up.
Well, it's helped. It helped me. I don't know if it helped Addie. It might have.
I think it must have. I don't know.
Her
I
lip
don't know
was
how much
so-
she noticed. It wasn't. We didn't do it on her lip. We did it on the one on her arm.
Oh,
Yeah.
she used it Sunday.
On the wasp sting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much she even noticed her arm, but
Well, because the lip was just something else.
yeah. Well, she got it twice on the lip.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad.
They're quick. Oh, it was
Yeah.
super sad to witness.
Yeah. You saw it happen?
I saw immediate. I heard the scream and I looked and she was grabbing her mouth.
Yeah.
And just started yelling, help, help.
Yep. And
And
that's when I ran up and
yeah, Sarah
grabbed her.
Rachel was like, I think that's Addie. And Sarah, I think I'm remembering this right, or Sarah heard her something because they were
Yeah.
talking. And then Sarah took off with a wonderful quickness
Yeah.
for a woman who's with child.
yes, who
But-
is
but that
more
is the-
than halfway to delivery.
I was waiting for a flip over that little ledge. Like it was quite athletic.
She just magnetos her way into
Well,
the air.
that's that motherly instinct.
Yeah.
If my child is in need, and male as well. Obviously,
Well,
you
yeah.
immediately go over there.
Well, I was puzzled that she took the time to go out to the parking lot to flip a car over before heading out
Yeah.
to get Addie. I was like, babe,
and I was
that's
puzzled
really
by the fact that
unnecessary.
you finished that fried chicken drumstick before you attended to your
I
daughter.
was like, I see you crying. Hang on a second.
Yeah, hang on, this is the best part. It is still crunchy.
Let me just get the bread off.
It's a good Sarah impression.
Thank you. Yeah,
That's a really
that was
good.
Jared.
That was me.
That was Jared.
Well, it was a good Sarah impression. So
Sarah's going to listen to this and be confused.
Yeah. So the bug bite thing from Shark Tank
Yeah.
is that it's this little, almost like a suction type of plunger apparatus where you get bit by a mosquito or whatever it is, and we got it because if I get bit by a mosquito, I swell up like crazy. And so we've used it on that, and then also Henry's never been stung by a bee, and just knowing Henry and his background, like there's just no way we're not gonna be life flighted somewhere. So we thought
man.
this might help out a little bit with that. But I got stung twice at Cedar Point
Oof.
a week ago,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
right in my butt,
yeah,
in the left cheek, and it got me, I believe, right in. This is stupid.
Podcast material.
Well, yeah. So there's this piriformis muscle in your butt that runs close to the sciatic nerve. So wherever this thing got me, like, it was lighting up that nerve.
Ooh.
And so I looked at Rachel. She saw it happen, and she's like, "I have that bug bite thing." And so I'm figuring, okay, I can go take this tool and suction out, whatever venom is on my left buttock cheek. So every time I take a step, it's like searing pain because I got stung like 3 times. And, so the closest bathroom was the Melt bathroom at Cedar Point. So I go in there, and there's a couple people at the urinal, guys at the urinal, kids, all that kind of stuff. And I go in the stall, and the stall won't lock. And I'm like, oh boy. Like, but I need to get this venom out. So I'm trying to figure out how to hold the door closed and then take this apparatus as my pants are down to get it on the sting, but I can't see it. And the door keeps popping open because I keep trying to adjust. And it was unbelievable. So there's these 2 young kids that the door just flung open, and here I am. It looks like I'm injecting something into my rear end at Melt.
at Cedar Point.
And at Cedar Point. And these 2 young kids, they must have been 14 or something like that. They were like, hey man, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm almost done. and I didn't have the foresight to say I got stung by a bee. And there's this Shark Tank thing. I mean, I was just trying to get it done and over with.
It's too much.
Yeah.
So I finally got done, and was able to, I think do a pretty good job, because like 10 minutes later, it was the pain was nearly all gone. But I walk out, and these 2 kids are just looking at me, and one kid's like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, what's your workout routine?" That's what he says to me. And I thought my glutes must have looked so good when that door flung open. I don't know. It was the weirdest thing. But so that thing has been really helpful for us in managing the venom of bugs. So, yeah, I would take that sponsorship. I would say that you would be...
so many free bug bite things. Mr. Bug Bite thing guy, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Mr. Bug.
I feel like Vans.
Vans.
Ooh, that's good.
Just
Yeah.
all the free Vans.
Vans.
Vans the vehicle or Vans the shoes?
Minivans.
80s minivans.
Hashtag van
Or I guess
life.
those are full-size Vans.
I would
I
take
guess
that.
so.
Yeah.
Those are excellent.
Vans, yeah. A tennis shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be your thing. You've got that Vans vibe.
I like that. That came to mind.
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
like some free
good.
Vans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're in this for the product then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every podcast is. Except for this.
So we're going to go ahead and
Just
release Chad from this podcast. Seems like he's got the wrong idea.
It's got weird motives today.
Right. Yeah.
I can't even say they're wrong. They're just weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. Shoes.
What would you
strange.
be?
Jared would be Mighty's kiwi fruit.
Kiwi fruit.
He is
'Cause I'm-
constantly trying to
Because I'm
get
sweet
me.
and furry.
Well, no,
Oh, okay.
but that's a different story. But I think you're a strange guy who eats the outside. You eat the fur.
It's not
And
strange.
you've been trying to get me to do it. See,
It's the right
think
way to
it's
eat a
normal.
kiwi. It is.
that's a good tagline for Mighty's kiwi fruit.
It's the right way to eat
The
a
right way
kiwi.
to eat a kiwi.
I feel like you would be sponsored by history.
All of history.
Well, you love history. And so
Oh.
isn't there a history.com history channel?
Hopefully not History Channel, because that would mean I'm half history and half like bizarre.
The only way you
conspiracy
can know
theory.
that is if you're all about history.
I'm not all about history.
You love history.
Well, I love history. All right, I'm all about history.
All about it's just a phrase. It's not a literal.
It's true.
I mean, you made it to work today.
That's right.
So had you been all about history,
I have
you
like
wouldn't have
old scrolls under my arm. You're like, what are those? Like, it's not the Declaration of Independence.
right.
I'm sorry, what?
It's just a map. So yeah, history. It's a map on where you can find more historical stuff.
It could be buried treasure map.
I like it.
You like
Yeah.
it?
History Channel.
What does a sponsorship get me?
Apparently free shoes.
Free shoes.
History
maybe-
Channel shoes.
Maybe you'll get
Yeah.
free history.
History.
Are you paying for your history now? I feel like if you are,
I don't have a subscription to history. Like I've unlocked that section of education in my brain.
I had a moment with my dad. He got an iMac in the early, well, it was like 2000, maybe 13, 14, something like that. And he's like, you come over and help me set it up. Yeah. So I go over and I set it up. And he's like, I want you to set up my email. I have AOL. And he goes, can you get that in here? And I said, yeah. He goes, what email do you have? I said, I just use Gmail. And he says, what does that cost? And I said, it's free. And then it hit me. And I was like, Dad, are you still paying for email?
Oh no.
And he was like, yes.
Oh.
So for, I don't even know. Remember those CDs that used to,
Yeah,
DVDs
AOL.
used to come? Yeah. And so,
Barely.
yeah, he didn't, and he was paying for it, I think, because it came with some security and all that sort of stuff. It's not like he was completely naive and didn't know that you didn't have to pay for email.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, everything's pretty secure these days. So, yeah. Anyways, history. If you're paying for history, don't do that.
I try not to pay for my history, but
Yeah.
now I'm trying to understand what I would get if I could pay for my history. How much more history could I be getting?
Artifacts.
So
I get artifacts?
Yeah.
That seems illegal.
Look at this. It's Napoleon's compass. Napoleon's compass. Well, you got to know where you're going if you're going to
really
dominate
good.
the world.
That's true.
At some point, someone gave this to him, this compass, and he was like, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for this compass.
Is he German?
Yeah. He's French German.
You need a subscription to history.
I am sponsored
Is he
by,
German?
I am sponsored, what am I, the bug bite thing.
Like my
That's
oh,
right.
Jared, what do you think
Yeah.
he'll be sponsored by?
I like the bug bite thing. I was
Yeah.
trying to think of a nutrition brand, but I couldn't think of
Oh,
one
yeah.
because I'm been out of that
Cliff
world for too
bars.
long. As you might guess.
Muscle milk.
Muscle milk.
That's the
I was
weed.
thinking Under Armour.
Ooh,
That's
I
good.
like that.
That would be one that would really benefit you.
Yeah.
You dig Under Armour.
That is
I
your
do. Yeah.
daily
I
wardrobe.
find that the clothing, although a little more pricey than your standard, like Target, Walmart wear,
Yeah.
holds up better.
Yeah.
So you wind up paying about the same amount of money. I realize. I think I
Over
talked about that.
time.
Over
yeah.
time. Yeah.
It's almost as if you get what you pay for.
I don't think that's true.
You don't think that's true at all?
No.
You just said it's true. I didn't say it's always true.
Get bodied Under Armour.
No.
Sheesh.
I'm kidding. I fully agree. You really do. With most things, you do.
Well, a lot of things.
Yeah.
There are times to be, cheap and probably I don't know if cheap.
Perhaps
that-
frugal.
Frugal.
Yeah.
There are times to be frugal, but then there's other stuff where it's just like, yeah, I mean, you gotta think if this is something you're gonna use often. Here's a good thing I've always heard is
Mattress.
yeah. there you
Don't
go.
chintz out on your mattress.
I got a mattress for 25 cents once
Really?
out of a vending machine. It was the worst mattress I've ever slept on. None of this is true. No, so
I think we gathered that.
I think you did. Well, you were still looking at me with serious eyes, so I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, this is going too far. I need to tell you.
Well, no, I was just waiting for it to get better.
I thought it was like the flip it
Yeah,
game.
that's true. So someone has said, get the cheap version of something, get the inexpensive version of something, and if you actually wear it out, then you know you'll actually use the expensive version.
Yeah.
That'll last for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
And then you can pass down to your great, 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 great grandchildren.
Here's my Under Armour shirt.
My family heirlooms.
This
Here's
from
here's my
Shoulders and
Napoleon's
Tricep
compass.
Day. Right. The famous German conqueror.
Of
Listen,
course.
you guys had Arnold Schwarzenegger as German. I thought that's what we were doing.
No, stop
Oh
it.
goodness. Wait, what?
Jared caught
It
it.
slipped out, and I immediately corrected myself.
Okay.
Was it you
redeemed
that
yourself.
slipped or was it Mark?
No, it was me.
Was it you? Okay. Well, you
Yeah.
caught it.
I caught it real good. Anyways, so
Oh, I'm Austrian, man.
The man is where you lost.
The man was a little Jamaican.
I'm Austrian, man. Man.
What are you doing, man?
Okay, so how are you,
Oh, I'm wonderful.
dude?
Who are you?
Better now that you're here.
who are you?
I'd like to welcome
Oh.
Reverend Chadwick von Paintenstein.
Yes.
I wish all of that was true.
Rhodesian, of course.
The history Jared would really appreciate that.
Welcome to the podcast, Chad.
Yes.
I'm glad
thank
you're
you.
here.
Yeah, it's
I've been-
fine. It's been
Been waiting for this
Yeah,
moment
months.
since this morning.
since
I've been waiting for this moment since 8
this
a.m.
Today. Do.
I love it.
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it.
Are you excited to be here?
Absolutely.
I'm glad you're here.
This is a good time.
Yeah. I'm excited that you're here. And you are here for many reasons. Not the least of which we'll get to in a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit today about Connect Conference. We're just coming off of the weekend of Connect Conference, which was
Oh, yeah.
Thursday, Friday. And then we had Sunday Fun Day, certainly on Sunday, which was
Almost a monsoon.
essentially rained out.
Yeah, it was something.
But no, we want to talk to you about Connect Conference. We want to talk about takeaways, how you felt, how do you come up with these things. We want to get to know you. We want the listeners to get to know you a little bit, your story, your history, how you came to faith, why you answered that call to ministry, and all of those things we'll kind of get into
Yeah.
in a little bit. And then if we've got some time, we need to address something today on the podcast that's a little bit more serious, which we don't normally do, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But
Yeah.
what was your expectation of how do you feel right now? Do you feel comfortable with casting pods so far?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's a good time.
To his point, like I'm wondering, like you realize we have started, so I mean
Have
that was
we?
the biggest thing.
Oh, goodness.
No.
It'll be interesting to know
no.
where we started.
Well, we were having a conversation earlier. He's like, you guys just kind of like just are talking, and then like what? You just hit
Yeah.
record? Like how does that work? I'm like,
Yeah, when the atrium opens, there's that little jingle, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then, a Star Wars episode 2
Sound like
transition.
I Dream of Jeannie.
Well, it's very similar, right? It feels
Yeah.
that. It feels similar to that.
yeah,
Star Wars
Yeah.
2 transition
dream of
to,
chat.
Right.
to you guys,
There you go. Yeah.
and you're just kind of in a conversation.
Mishmash.
So
Yeah,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This is not your first podcast experience.
that's correct.
In fact, I believe you had your own podcast for a period of time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was based on sports.
Yeah, all Cleveland sports, but especially the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
It was called the Brownie Sunday Podcast.
Look at that.
And had a little brownie sundae on a table like this as the thumbnail image.
Okay. Was it just
And-
you?
No. My partner was named Ron. He's down in Dayton, Ohio, and we wrote together for a Cleveland sports website. And with that opportunity, I went down 2018 to the Pro Bowl. I interviewed our Browns Pro Bowl player, Joe Schobert, that year. He was the lone Browns player, and a couple other guys. It was pretty fun. So, yeah, cool opportunities with that. We shared all that on the podcast. But we pretty much had it like this. We had a third guest every time.
Okay.
Somebody we pulled from the Twitter world or a former Browns athlete, et cetera, et cetera.
So you guys
Somebody
just did it
was on.
all audio, no video, right?
Right.
Okay, so yeah.
At that time, it wasn't as important.
Right.
It was a few years ago.
Yeah.
You kind of wish that you had the Brownie Sunday podcast. Now there's so much juicy content with the Browns right now that I could be
Do you know
talking
anything about this?
About the Browns?
Yeah, about this football he speaks of?
the sports.
Some, yeah.
Do you follow it?
You're still follow is a little bit strong, but
Okay.
I feel like you follow it, more than anybody.
You're aware
here.
of it. Okay.
I'm
On
vaguely
staff.
aware. Yeah.
Yeah.
You try to get conversations going with us sports wise, like in early when you first started working here, and then was just filled with massive disappointment.
No.
No.
For some reason, God gives me my close friends that really don't care about sports.
Yeah.
Most of my close friends, people that I work with, I'm like, man, what is the deal with this?
Oof.
It really is. I'm like a magnet for that. So
What
I've
about
got
your buddy Bobby?
Bobby, yeah, same thing. He's not
No, into
really
sports?
He played a little football in high school, but
Okay.
he's just not into.
How'd you get
professional
it? How'd
sports.
you get into it? Was your family into it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad was a professional softball player, and he had sports radio, sports talk radio on all the time, 24/7 from TV. When we get in the car, it was on the radio. So I was just saturated in it for years.
Was his primary job softball?
No, his primary job.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
This was just like he probably ended when I was really young, like 3 years old.
Oh, okay.
Ended his career.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I guess that would be a sport you could go pro in. There's 1,000 sports channels out. When I was a kid,
Yeah.
you had. We didn't even have cable, but like ESPN was it. But now there's I feel like a bunch of ESPNs and all this.
Yeah.
And so, are you the type of person that is into it enough where if you're at home, like a sports channel is on, you're getting stuff via your phone?
Not as much anymore.
Not as much
There
anymore.
was that long season of my life where, I was pretty addicted to sports and stuff, and
It was football.
football's the biggest.
Was the biggest one.
I turn off cable and stuff until football season comes back.
Okay. Then you
So,
bring it back on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get the Hulu Live Sports or whatever, or
Yeah.
YouTube
Nice.
TV.
That's always been a challenge. Is when we lived in Texas, we left Ohio, and that's when Cavs were huge,
Mhm.
and then that as soon as we moved, that finals is when we won. But the challenge was always, how do we watch Cleveland sports from afar?
Yeah.
Now we're here, and we're like, well, how do we watch Cleveland sports here? So you'll have to clue me in, because we like watching the Browns. I don't follow it like super deeply. I usually go into it saying like, hey, they're gonna lose.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. It's still the joy of my city.
We had a Browns player who I shall not name
Yeah.
that was at church a few weeks back. And somebody that knew him introduced me to him.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize what he was, and so I'm like, what do you do for a living?
Oh, man.
He's like, oh, I play for the Browns, and that explains your size, like you're
The
just
mass.
my goodness, yeah, just a large human being.
Yeah.
And I was like, what side do you go? You scoring or you stopping that? He just started laughing, and he's like, I so appreciate this conversation. And it wasn't but 2 minutes in the conversation, a couple people come up to him and they recognized it.
Yeah.
And so he's, having a talk shop and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, my dad was super into sports, and I liked football, like playing football when I was a
Yeah.
kid. But as soon as I found guitar, it was like, that was it. Does
Yeah.
Liz share your passion or love for sports at all?
No,
No.
not
Okay.
at all.
No, okay.
When I bring back on the TV for football season, she's like, Kim, do we have to?
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to appreciate my love for this.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably You want to welcome people?
We haven't done that yet, have
No,
we?
we're like 16 minutes into this, 20 minutes into this.
No, we're almost 30 minutes in.
Are we? All right.
So why don't we go ahead and welcome everyone?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to the Atrium, a Hope Christian Church podcast. I'm Jared, Crave Arts Pastor here at Hope Christian Church, and you are.
I am Neal, lead pastor here at Hope Christian Church, and you are.
And you are.
And you are.
I guess not my German name. Yes, my name's Chad Painter. I'm the student pastor here at Hope Christian Church.
Welcome, Chad,
Yeah.
to episode
27.
27.
We're creeping up on 30.
2700.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
This podcast is almost 30 years old.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Still, young.
Over halfway through the 20s.
Still a youngster.
Yeah.
Just like me.
Forever young. Anyways,
I like that.
I knew you would.
Would you like to do some meet and greet with us,
Oh
Chad?
my goodness.
You want to do that?
Would you?
Oh, I almost sang it, but I'm not going to do that. That's your
I
job.
would love for you to do that.
No.
I'd
Would
love
you?
to pass that off. You want to do it together?
All right.
Let's do it.
All right, let's
try
do it. It's time for our favorite segment, meet and greet.
Ba-da-ba-ba.
Oh, I
So
was
much
very thrown
chaos.
off. I'm so sorry.
No. He was waiting. That was all right.
That was
you,
good.
you take it.
No, I liked it.
No,
Well, there
it's
are no
done.
redos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was.
That's it, man.
It happened very fast.
Well,
It just sounds like it put a quarter note delay on it.
yeah. It was good, actually. Yeah, you're right.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
It's like, yeah, that's really good. I like that.
Yeah.
In my brain, I was like, oh, what's the McDonald's thing? Theme song.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, boy.
This is original content I've come up with.
That's right.
So I get the do you have something for this today?
No.
Okay, cool. So one thing that I don't know how many people know this about you, but you have a culinary background.
Culinary, as
Culinary.
they say.
It's very cool. Why don't you, before we jump into the meet and greet, why don't you tell us a little bit about that background? Why do you know how to handle food?
Why do you know how to handle food? That's a good question. I wanted to do something creative and hands-on and artsy in high school. And by the time high school ended, I loved like Hell's Kitchen and these shows like that.
Oh, yeah.
And before that, I really wanted to be like a film director or something along those lines. And there's just so much involved in that.
Yeah.
And it's just so many people you have to work with, and it felt overwhelming.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of media school in high school at a career center, and I was like, this isn't it. And then discovered cooking in the kitchen, and it's kind of like mostly all on you.
Yeah.
And you can depend on yourself. And at that time, it just felt like a really good fit. And once I went to culinary school, it really was a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Had on my long,
You see what he did there?
yeah. It's right. It was leading into my baking classes, my 8-hour baking classes.
Did you really have 8-hour baking classes?
Yeah, they made it feel like you were on a shift.
Really?
So your cooking and your baking classes where you're learning the methods.
Wow.
were that long.
Was it literally just called baking class?
Baking 1, and then baking 2.
Wow.
Cooking 1, and then cooking 2. And you're learning all the methods and stuff.
Wow,
like that.
that's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I did that all to just get a wife, and that happened, and
And then
I
you
was
gave it
like,
up.
Forget that. No,
So did you say get a wife or get a life? You say get a wife with a
I
W?
did
Pretty
say-
sure he said
I
wife.
did say wife, but life is very.
I did that until
so
I
much
got a
funnier.
life.
Captain Picard.
Everybody's gonna understand.
Oh no. The inside jokes are
Did
coming
you
out.
say get a life? Ha.
Right.
No, I'll tell students too. I love doing the school, but every instructor I had
Yeah.
was in bad shape. They were coming in telling us about, they were having like high blood pressure appointments at their doctors.
Oof.
They were never seeing their families, or they had broken families because they worked so many hours managing these kitchens, always working over the holidays, no breaks, all
Right.
stress, all pounding Diet Cokes if they were trying to give up
Yep.
smoking.
Right.
And that was just a pattern for all these instructors. And I was like, I do not want this to be my life.
Yeah. I think this is pretty well known for anyone who's like spent any time watching any like real cooking shows or anything that have to do with real life restaurants and stuff. But
Yeah.
I served in a restaurant once, and I was amazed by just the rough life of a line cook.
Yeah.
Like,
What
it-
restaurant did you do?
this was a restaurant that's no longer there in
Cracker Barrel.
Westlake. Yeah. It was called Damon's Grill.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
It
Damon's
was-
Grill.
Not this one, you don't.
Not
It
that
was
one.
over on Speary in Westlake.
It was, yeah. It was.
We
that
had
was
one
a
in
nightmare.
Twinsburg growing up. That was
Ribs.
great.
Yes.
No?
It was very bad. A family friend was managing it, and so he asked me to come on, and I did, and then he left, and it was not a good time.
How long were you there?
Oh, maybe 4 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was not long. It was an experiment.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just kind of my experience with that, like huge, like drug use is huge with a lot of cooks, and just depression, all that stuff. And yeah, you don't have a life. You work so much, and you don't. It's not like a normal career where you're gonna get like your normal like holidays off. Like holidays are, people go out to eat on holidays, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's tough, dude. So you were kind of witnessing that from your instructors.
Yeah. I witnessed that, and I went, you know what? That's really not the life I want to live. That lifestyle is it's going to pull you in because it's the majority. If you watch Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay's the only healthy person. Maybe not when he's yelling at people, but everybody else, has those bad habits that are just a part of their life. And you go, okay, that's going to be the majority, and it's going to be almost expected and peer pressured. And I didn't want to do that. So, and I was going to go for a 4-year degree, and a year and a half in is when I really stepped over the line of faith, and I gave my life to the Lord. I've known about Jesus. I'd been going to church and youth group a lot growing up. Yeah. But it was kind of like going to the dentist, going to the grocery store, going to the church. Like, it's just what you do. And it's like part of brings more of a holistic aspect to family values in your life and your lifestyle, rather than this is everything. Following Jesus is everything. And that's what it truly became. And the gospel clicked for me a year and a half in. So I was close to 19 when I truly gave my life to him and started following him. And right away, you get pulled in when you're a 19-year-old, like, you're out of high school, you want to serve in youth ministry? And I'm like, I don't know what this Bible says. Let me learn that first.
Sometimes they don't care, Chad.
Sometimes they don't care. No, you're a warm body. Get in there.
That's it.
Get ice cream thrown on you. It's going to be great. Yeah. Whatever, And I actually took like 2 months. I told the youth pastor, like, I want to get to know this Bible. Yeah. And I was putting away like all my math books for school. Like, I was like, I don't want to read any of this but the Bible. And just really fell in love with his word. And then I went, okay, I can get really creative in youth ministry. There can be something very artistic, and I can express these things that I really love to do that I was doing in food in youth ministry. So started pursuing a Bible degree. Like, I just got my 2-year, it was a culinary certificate. Is what I closed out with instead of going for a 4-year. Oh, wow. And then went to a 4-year Bible college.
That's cool.
So
that's awesome.
What did you have a major in Bible college?
Yeah, I have a bachelor's in biblical studies.
Biblical studies, yeah. Nice. That's what you...
Yeah, that's basically what I have. That's basically what you have too.
Essentially, yeah.
I knew people that were going to some colleges, especially the colleges that some of the church world around me was pushing. Mm-hmm. Then it's like, yeah, I'm going to go to that college because it's the one from a youth conference or something. Right. And some people were going for specific youth ministry degrees, and they were going to be $80,000 to $100,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Like, no, this isn't the way it should be built either. So I kind of went a different route. I did all my stuff online.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's what I did. I think that's what you did.
And you did
what
too.
I did.
Yeah.
Online, the way
3
of the
online
future.
buddies. Yeah.
So, so all that's to say, you have a culinary background. Very cool. So here's a question. What is the most problematic meal you've ever made? And you can take that however you want. Does that mean it tasted bad? Does it mean it was a horrible recipe to have to follow? Like, it was difficult to make? I just want to hear from your perspective as someone who's really competent with food.
Yeah. So baking is far different than just being a line cook, like you saw. Like, you can throw some flavors together pretty easily if you have a good palate. Yeah. With a saute pan and oil and whatever. You can get really creative and make it taste good. But baking is chemistry. Yeah. It's a whole different thing. So baking was never my strong suit. I tried to make a tiramisu espresso cake for a girlfriend back in the day. And we cut into it. And this thing took me like all night to make. Yeah. Cut into it on her birthday, and it's raw inside.
Oh, man. I'm glad that didn't work out because you might have found a wife. you don't want
she
that.
broke up with
She
you.
was not my wife. That's right.
That's right. Yeah, that was God's will.
Chad, please pack your knives and go home. She just let you go.
Jeff
That's it.
Probst is now
Chad.
The host of your relationship. So tiramisu.
a tiramisu cake.
Is
Yeah,
it
did not
so?
work out.
That's like, is that egg whites and some stuff inside? Like, is that basically a custard that bakes, or how?
I feel like that's all baked goods are just
Yeah,
eggs
sure.
and some stuff inside.
Absolutely.
But it's always like eggs, flour, sugar, and some stuff inside.
That's right. That would be exactly right.
Jared, please pack your knives and go.
I don't have any knives.
That's the problem.
So
Shopping like this the whole time.
you're bruising it. You're not cutting it. Oh man. So have you learned how to make a tiramisu since then?
No, I've never tried.
Really?
Yeah, failed that, and I just never went back. Maybe I should. That'd be like an exposure therapy experiment. Try it again.
I have a fear of tiramisu. That's so funny. We have a plate of tiramisu here.
Here's some egg whites and some other stuff to put inside. Please heal your
my
mind.
goodness, that's funny. Okay, so that was the most problematic. What is
yeah.
the meal that you are most proud of?
Yeah, what's your best meal?
What's your best?
Like if
Oh
you
goodness.
sit down with a childhood hero, who's that for you?
Barack Obama.
Oh wait, so I'm gonna present this meal.
You're gonna present this meal to Optimus Prime. Let's say.
Optimus Prime, who eats food.
We were talking about Optimus Prime earlier.
I'm guessing it's some sort of oil and gas cupcake.
Oil and gas.
Did I just name the podcast?
Absolutely.
My favorite meal,
That is a great band name.
time began.
Who would be? All right, let's just say Mace Windu is going to be served.
Right.
Oh boy.
I love making homemade pizza.
Oh,
Homemade pizza's my jam.
Yeah.
I made it all during the quarantine.
yeah.
It was so
Dude.
much pizza in my house.
Yeah,
sounds
it's
so
great.
good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any particular toppings? Like, what's your go-to recipe for pizza?
Oh, very controversial. Bacon, pineapple is
Yes.
my favorite.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, that's
And
good.
I also like pickle.
I don't
the
understand that
controversy.
either.
Yeah.
I've never understood that being controversial. Like, all this other stuff can go on pizza, but not pineapple.
I don't know if I've ever
What?
met somebody that's been, averse to that. That's been like, that's ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah.
I've
man, I feel like
experienced
that's the
maybe one
majority.
person, like one real person I've talked to who's like, oh, pineapple on pizza. And I'm like, do you really hate it? And they're like, well, no, I like it. But like, okay,
Right.
stop it.
Yeah, they don't like it because
Wow.
it's, yeah.
I don't get it.
And maybe I run in different circles.
And make sure it's
That-
fresh pineapple.
Those
you know.
Hawaiian circles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's people that haven't tasted grilled pineapple.
Oof.
Yeah.
You're grilling steak out there, throw a pineapple on there.
Mm.
You're going to love it.
How you cooking the pizza? You are you grilling pizzas? Have you done that? You do an oven? You got one of those little.
I do both, yeah.
Okay.
Because I have a griddle actually in my house that I use instead of a grill. I've got this 360 degree griddle so that I can do like pancakes on it, eggs, bacon.
Is this
and
something you put
pizzas.
over the stove, or is it its own thing?
No, yeah, it's its own
It's electric.
plate.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got a cover for it. And you can
Nice.
open it and close it. So you can kind of do some smoking in there too if you wanted.
Ooh, interesting.
Thought
Yeah.
about getting one of those. It's
great.
Where to put
Yeah.
it? It's the
Yeah.
thing.
What are
Space.
those things that are big outdoor, like Blackstone? I think is
Yeah.
what they're called. The
Oh,
outdoor
yeah.
griddles.
Yeah, Rachel's dad has
those
one of
look,
those.
Those look fantastic.
Anytime he makes breakfast on there, it just looks incredible.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of potatoes and onions and
Oh,
eggs and stuff.
sounds so good.
It's-
Eggs and some other
Eggs
stuff.
and some other stuff.
yeah, that's
He makes tiramisu for breakfast. That's amazing.
Basically,
So if
that's
you were going to
cooking
go on Master Chef,
Oh, yeah.
you would make him a pizza.
yeah. I would make Gordon a pizza.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are you doing for sauce?
For sauce, I mean, I could make my own sauce, but I mean, during the quarantine and stuff, I just
Sure, yeah.
there's like good pizza sauces at Lucky's Market in Cleveland that are more local.
Okay, dial back the sponsorships.
Well, I'm really trying to push this here. You know? So far, we have Hulu,
Episode
YouTube
20,
TV,
episode 27 brought to you by Lucky's Market.
Lucky's Market. Yeah.
Make your own sauce. Go to Lucky's Market. Yeah. I have never made my own sauce. I've done my own dough and done that. No.
You could throw pasta sauce on it too.
I
You
did
do
make
that.
a sauce one time.
Did you?
Yeah. That's right. When we lived in the condo, you were at that condo.
I was at that
Yeah,
condo.
it wasn't
I didn't
worth
live
all the
there,
work.
though.
It wasn't that much better.
Yeah, I wasn't there all the time.
Maybe because I wasn't that good at it.
Yeah.
But nice. Yeah, we did like this honey type crust.
Yeah.
I sat across from a guy after a baptism. We went out with our family, and it was a friend of Rachel's that she used to work with, and her boyfriend or her fiance's dad owns an Italian restaurant in Cleveland, and they're known for their pizzas. And he's Italian, and so I feel so bad for this guy. He's trying to celebrate this engagement with his. And I'm just like, so how much olive oil do you use? For your, I'm asking him all these questions, and he told me some really interesting stuff, and I went and I tried it, and it worked. But he would use honey to activate the yeast.
Wow. I do that.
Yeah, and I thought, well, that was really, it was good. But then I was like, yeah, Marcos.
I've been back to ordering pizzas more.
Yeah, well, it's just so tiny. I just don't have the extra time.
Yeah.
So.
What about you? What's the most because you like to
I do
spend
dabble.
time in the
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What's the most problematic meal you've ever faced?
Oddly enough, tiramisu cupcakes.
No.
Yeah,
For real?
for real.
No way.
Oh, legit. Rachel was
Wow.
going to. She's screaming at the phone right now because I don't remember the exact event. She was going to some event. I don't know if it was a baby shower that she was working, and she was busy working, and so she was supposed to bring a dessert, and so I offered to make these for her, and they turned out great.
Yeah,
they did, but it was just so much work. Like I'm like drilling for oil in the center of these things, and like putting these lady fingers soaked.
Oh man!
I mean, it was just an unbelievable amount of work. And by
Yeah.
the time I got done, I was like, I'm never doing this ever
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So they turned out good.
Yeah.
I'm not adventurous enough to make meals that I know I'm going to blow.
Yeah.
Like, I tend to stick to, the standard stuff. Now I just mass produce food, but the other one that was Carrabba's used to have this spedino di mare. It was a scallop dish.
Ooh, that
that
sounds
I
good.
learned to make. That was
really?
Yeah, scallops are tough to cook.
Oh, yeah.
And so I burned through a few scallops before I got the good ones, and I made that.
90 seconds each side.
That's what it turned out
it.
to be. Yeah, right about that. And so I cooked that for Rachel for like an anniversary one year, and did that with some like
awesome.
lamb chop things. But yeah, I think those cupcakes were probably the worst thing I ever made.
Yeah.
Just because of the sheer volume. I'm with you. Like baking is just a whole thing.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, yeah, boy.
Yeah.
It never seems to be right.
No.
For the recipe either.
No.
That's right.
No. Something's always off.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But
It's interesting.
yeah,
Very
I do
cool.
enjoy cooking.
It's awesome.
I like grilling a lot.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Tri-tip steak, that's been your thing for
It's been nice.
2 years or something.
Yeah. On Sundays we'll typically do some type of grilled steak, and tri-tip was great. It was super affordable and just delicious, and it grills up nice, and it's not ribeyes are unmatched for me in flavor.
Yeah.
But I can't not eat all that fat.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. That's why you get the ribeye.
You render the
Marbling.
fat, it gets nice and grilled and charred, and I'm slicing off shavings and just putting it on the other stuff. And
Oh man.
I can't do this anymore.
Oh, boy.
I've got a kid. I'm 43. Like I'm already fighting father time right here. So yeah, so we moved to tri-tip because it was a little bit leaner cut. And, yeah.
So where are we going to lunch after this?
I don't know. I feel like we just ate, but now I'm super hungry.
Yeah, I could go for a ribeye right now.
So talk to me about
Full
this
ribeye.
transition of culinary school. 19, the Lord captures your heart. I like the phrase that you used was, I stepped over the line of faith. That's interesting. I'd like you to maybe open that up a little bit, because I think that's worth explaining, because there are people that, and we've talked about it on Sundays, believing is not faith.
Absolutely.
And so if you would open that up a little bit, and then pick it up from done with, or you're in Bible college, when do you start to feel that call to ministry, like full-time vocational ministry? And then why students? Of all the like kind and quality of people, why students? Why not kids? Why not adults? Like, why that pocket a little bit?
Yeah, I felt kind of lost as a student, obviously, and I knew the story. Like you just said, there's a difference between believing and faith. So I believed the story is somehow real. It's been handed to me as a kid, as a young adult for years, but I stepped over because the faith is there as a gift.
Yeah.
And I finally was like, I can grab this. I can, this is going to be the engine of my life.
Yeah.
And it's been there all along, and it's been a free gift handed to you. So that's what I mean by stepping over the line of faith. And it was a call to full-time ministry, or however you want to phrase it, like immediately when I decided I want to go to Bible college.
Yeah.
That was just they were hand in hand. I need to go do this because I need this. I guess this is the next step towards full-time ministry. This is my commitment. This is something I can do to commit to those steps that I feel like the Lord is calling me into do full-time ministry. Part of it was, like I said, a youth pastor at the church was like, "Oh, you love Jesus now? Come to youth ministry because you're a young kid." I said that to a couple at Connect conference who were getting married in June. It's like, "So when are you guys going to hang out and do students with us?"
Yeah.
But part of it is also like I was lost as a kid. You're so malleable. This is the time where you should be, even if you're not talking about it out loud, you're wrestling with what is true. What do I believe? What am I going to stake my life on? And so that was happening inside, even though I didn't talk to my parents about it a lot, even though I didn't talk with the youth pastor about it a lot. I was wrestling with what am I going to believe in? What am I going to run with the rest of my life? I need something to root me.
Yeah.
Every kid needs something to root them. Especially right now. We were talking about this morning. It seems like kids right now, there's commentators on mainstream podcasts saying kids are going back to Christianity because it's like rebellious.
Oh.
Because people are just saying, do whatever you want. Live however you want to live.
Yeah.
It's all up to your imagination. You can be free to do that. It wasn't that far off. It's a little more prominent now, but it wasn't that far off when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was more as the millennial generation was, you can be whatever you want to become. If you pull up your bootstraps enough, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So it kind of ran more down that vein. So I just always been passionate about somebody that age, a young teenager. What I work with is 13, 18-year-olds, and that's perfect for me right now. That age is just so pivotal.
Yeah.
To really know what you believe and know who Jesus is and cross over the line of faith and know that this is a free gift that's been handed to you and can be the engine of your life. So I get excited about students, and however long the Lord has me in student ministry, I'm good with that.
It's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So how did you end up here at Hope? Were you at churches before? Is this...
I'd like to know that too. I just woke up here one day. How did I get here?
I manifested you.
Where am I? You're the youth pastor.
Yes. Of course I am.
What I was taught in Bible college was to
Make
manifest.
me tiramisu.
So the quick story is in Bible college, about halfway through, I was serving at a Grace Brethren church, which is the fellowship that I kind of came to Christ in and worked in for a few years. And Macedonia was the first church I volunteered at, and I was a youth worker at and did the retreats at. I was, who Judah, Logan, Becky, Adam, Kayla, I was in, I was doing that role for a few years, and had my eye on how do I keep pursuing full-time
Those are student
ministry.
ministry volunteers, by
Those
the way.
are my shout-outs to my student ministry volunteers.
Leaders.
Judah's yelling at his phone right now. Yes!
He might be yelling in the parking lot.
He might
just be, you're right. He's just yelling.
He might be here.
Joyfully yelling into the universe.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I was volunteering there, and then I discovered there was an internship at a different Grace church in Ashland. I found it on my Bible college's like Facebook page. And I was like, oh, that's like my denomination. That's the fellowship I work in. And it's only an hour away. And they were looking for somebody to intern in youth ministry. And so I called them up and submitted an application and went to do that.
How old are you at this point?
I was
21, 22.
Yeah, I was probably 22 at that time and went to do that and did that for a year and a half, I think. Became the middle school pastor. Then I became the high school director. And during that time, Liz and I got married and she moved to Ashland with me.
So that internship turned into a full-time
Turned into a position. It was really quick.
Yeah.
And then we got married and lived there for a little bit. And then I had submitted applications to the Cleveland area because Liz and I are very passionate about the Cleveland area. So just sent them out like right before we got married in 2016. And this was for a different position I knew I wouldn't get because it was a family pastor position.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm not married yet, don't have kids yet, can't really counsel marriages or anything. but
don't have my driver's license.
Don't have my driver's license.
Still a felon.
But
Oh no!
Trying to get that expunged.
Yeah, just brought me on to get dragged. I knew it.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
Still a
Texas
felon.
Chad is bad.
I sound just like Sarah, apparently.
Oh my gosh!
That
Okay,
was Jared. I was telling
I know. I'm on the same page
Sarah,
with you.
I would never do that.
Where was I?
So you applied to Hope. We were hiring
Yes.
a family pastor.
That's right.
And I remember Bob had a yay and a nay stack, if you will.
Yeah.
And I remember you being in the yay stack, and then us kind of looking over these resumes and just realizing, with the size of the church at that time, it would probably not be, and the size of the children's ministry at that time. In 2016, the children's ministry certainly has grown, but it was enough that we thought, well, we probably should bring somebody in with some family pastor experience. And so yours didn't have that, but I think had Bob reached out and talked to you for that?
No, I didn't get a call from here at that
I didn't
time.
know.
And I knew I wouldn't for that position.
Yeah.
But again, I was putting my name out there in the area.
Yeah.
Was kind of the idea.
Well, he kept the yay stack.
He kept that stack. That's right.
Yeah.
So 2 years later, we were going to transition anyway. And there, long story short, there were multiple options we were trying to figure out, but nothing was perfect. Nothing was crystal clear. This is what we needed to do. And then I get a call from you guys.
Yeah.
2 years later in 2018.
Isn't that nuts?
That was nuts that you were looking for a student pastor. And at that point, right, 2 years before that even, I don't even know if I would have had the experience and resume for that
Yeah.
yet.
But that was a ministry here at Hope that had existed, but had never really been invested in.
Yeah.
In the way that it should have been invested in. And some of that was resourcing, just not enough people and to do that. And so, and also it was, the church just didn't seem to have it had a lot of children or a lot of like young adults. There was nothing really at the time that seemed to be drawing students in. And so when we looked at the resume again, we realized that this was a ministry that needed growth and that someone could grow into that position, and you can learn in that position while you grow it. So I remember you coming up, and then I think the first time I officially met you was at Don Ramon. I met you here on Sunday, but then you and Liz and Bob and Sonny and I and Rachel and I went to Don Ramon and ate burritos for Jesus. I remember you had somewhat long hair.
Oh, yeah.
You were going for that whole thing.
He still hired me.
Well,
Oh, my.
I've always secretly wanted it. As you can see, it hasn't worked out. But I was like, well, if nothing else, he looks cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I was
good.
like, this guy looks cool. But yeah, I remember talking to you and Liz, and just the conversation just flowing. Like, dynamic in the staff is super important. It's important to all of us.
Yeah.
And part of the hiring process for a church, it starts with the heart of the individual. Like, what kind of person are they? the skill sets come maybe, next. Maybe do they have the ability to do the job, or are they, teachable? And then many other factors play a role, but then really one of the biggest things is how are they going to fit within the staff and the church as a whole. And I remember us just sitting there just talking, and the conversation was light, and got to hear your and Liz's story a little bit, and it was light and it was enjoyable. And I remember telling Bob, I think you'd fit in great with the staff, and we had several candidates that, some of whom
Yeah.
that were great people,
Right.
But we really felt like you were the right fit, and we were hoping that the Lord was leading that decision. And here we are, 4 years later. When is it 4? now?
Yeah. Over 4 years.
Over 4 years.
May
Yeah.
was 4 years.
So this drive and this passion for students, in kind of drawing from your own experience and the gaps that you felt in your development as a student, has got you to student ministry, and you start getting into the groove here at Hope, and this idea pops into your head: Connect Conference.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
What's it for? Why'd you do it? This is the second time we've done this, right? Talk about the first one maybe a little bit.
2 of 4 years.
Well, there was a bit
There
going
was a
on.
big gap in the middle
Something happened.
where I was making pizzas at home.
Right.
Yeah, so that was almost right away in the first year I was here. Connect Conference came to mind because of our mission and vision, connecting people to Jesus, and I loved that phrase. And I wanted to do a student conference. I can't fully explain it. I just feel like I'm supposed to do an event like that. I'm supposed to do events. I love to just get all these details and ideas and what can we do and who can we partner with and get involved and really create a product that brings people before worshiping the Lord. And it's a catalyst for their faith and perhaps stepping over the line of faith and opening the doors and welcoming kids of our area. Perhaps maybe they're affiliated with a different church, even a different parachurch. Maybe they're involved at FCA or Young Life or something at school. Or those kids in my youth group or other youth groups invite their friends to come to something like this together and connect. And so that we have something that's a catalyst to connecting students to Jesus in the summer. So that's how that came about. And I just love doing stuff like that. And as you can see with the narrative of like, I want to do something creative. That's a absolute blank canvas that I can paint upon or saute upon.
Oh,
Here we go.
oh man, that was
Here we
good.
And,
Ooh, he's skilled.
and just work with people and work with my team, the people I just named off, and others. I became a good friend with the middle school pastor down the road, and Nobles who spoke, and Denver Daniel with Open Door Christian Schools who we partner with. And when I heard Denver preach here, like the first 2 times, now 3 times, I think, it's like, this is a great voice for the kids in this generation of this area.
Yeah. Well, he's in it, man.
And he's in it.
Yeah, he's
Absolutely.
He's deep.
Right. Who better to invite
Right.
to do
Yeah,
it
for
and
real.
open that up?
Yeah.
And met Nobles because I'm the Avon Eagles team pastor, which started last year, and doors are opening like that in youth ministry. And I went to do their Fellowship of Christian Athletes camp with them last summer. And Nobles is speaking about adversity, which a lot of these kids were coming from East Cleveland and had very potent adversity. And then kids from Avon and so forth, that maybe their lives look a little different, but they still have adversity.
Sure.
That it just looks different than East Cleveland sometimes, and just able to lock arms and be brothers and learn about the Lord and learn about teamwork. And they really brought about the values of being a believer too to these kids in the gospel. And Noble spoke, and I was like, this would be a great voice as well for the kids in our area and their generation. So that was this year, but came about in 2019 was the first time it came about.
Yeah.
And
So you're a few days removed from
Yeah.
Connect Conference. Now you've got a little bit of breathing room and a little bit of space between it. You know, what was your takeaway from it? Like, obviously we had breakout sessions. You had 4 speakers in breakout sessions, and then the 3 main session speakers, right? It was Denver, you, and then Nobles.
Yeah.
And were you able to pull anything from this, like for your own growth, for the ministry as a whole? Is there anything that, like, a resounding theme that's stuck? And if there's not, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, did anything kind of stick out in your mind?
Yeah, I would just bring up that, like you said, I brought a small message at the end to recap and bring it all together, and why were we here, kind of a message. And for me, my wife asked me, like, do you feel like that was worth it? What do you think after all that? And I went, yep, this is something I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, it's good.
After that breathing room. So I'd say the same thing today.
Good.
And so the message I brought was 1 Thessalonians 1, that as a young church, they're like maybe 2 years old only. So they're young in the faith. And I could really relate that to these middle schoolers, to some high schoolers there, and go, listen, you guys are young in the faith. Look at a church like this that was young and young in the faith. And their leaders writing this to them are going, we don't need to speak about the faith anymore that you guys have, because it's so crystal clear. It's seen in 2020 vision from Macedonia to Achaia and everybody around. So how can you do that? And I put up this map with Avon. Like right now we're meeting in Avon. Some of you going back to Bay Village. Some of you going back to North Ridgeville, to Elyria, to Lorain, to Westlake, so on and so forth. But we're here, we're gathered together, connecting. When you walk out of these doors, you're going to be like this Thessalonian church. That's our hope and dream. That it's not Denver or Nobles or me or Narrative that did the rap concert. It's the star of the show. But that you guys are captivated by the Lord, and you go out and be world changers in our area after connecting here. And so it was like, what are you going to do now? You know, what are you going to do to carry this message out? And we brought it all to a point with the student driver T-shirts we have. Like, I was like, you've seen the student driver bumper stickers on the back of cars by now. But like, what happens in order to see that out on the road? Some kid had to be tested on what it would be like to be out on the road. And then an adult, a teacher, drives up, gets out, hands them the keys, gets in the passenger seat, and they go out on the highway, and all that is tested in the real world on real pavement. So Nobles, Denver, me, all of us, we're getting out and giving you the keys. We're still going to be with you. We're still going to share this message. We're still going to do what we're called to do, but now you're invited and to drive this as a student driver, drive this message of one faith, drive the worship, the worshipful words that you have taken root in your hearts over this conference out into your communities.
It's good.
So, yeah, I feel like it was awesome, and it did that. So,
yeah,
thank the Lord.
No, that's good, man. I thought you did a great job organizing the event, as always.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, everything looked and sounded great, and I know that that's a lot of work, and so I'm thankful that you put that work in. If you've got a word for parents of teens, I know we've got parents of teens. We have teens that listen to this.
Yeah.
We want to say to them, is there anything, to parents that, you want to encourage them about, or even the teens, anything that, is on your heart?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much I could say, but one thing I would say is, now that school is coming up and this new set of routines is coming that you're wrapping your head around, and the world is opened up for sure this year with school and extracurriculars, there's always the temptation to keep putting more and more and saying yes and yes to things on your plate, so that you get as much experience out of middle school, or especially high school, as you possibly can. And sometimes parents can jump on board with that and go, like, this is going to be good for them. It's going to be healthy for them. And so you start saying yes to all these things and being overcommitted, right? And I've told parents before, like, that's like putting too much soap or detergent into your washing machine. You think this is going to clean your clothes better than ever, but it's going to actually do what? And they go, oh, it's going to break my machine. Yeah. it's going to break it. You're going to have a burnout point. So get in front of that before you go to school and go, how are we going to be disciplined and committed to being with the Lord and being with the community that the Lord has us in if you're a part of Hope Christian Church? You need to first and foremost sit down as a family and go, how are we going to make sure that we're committed to being with our people and being in the presence of the Lord and what he's calling our family to do with the people he's put us with?
Yeah.
That's most important. But I also love that you are talented and you're in band and you're in sports and I want to encourage that, but there are certain things I think that you can cut and balance the two. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
You and I have talked a lot, in my office and in your guys' office as well, just about this idea of kind of overcorrecting things. And I think that that's so true with academics and with extracurriculars is we wind up just, you don't want your kid to be lazy, and you don't want your kid to be unexperienced, and you don't want your child to have to play catch up. And so parents will often just overcorrect and just get them involved in every single thing. Yeah. And we've addressed this on the podcast before where, like my kids got, 5 games this weekend, and it's like, my goodness, and they're on travel ball,
so
this, ball, and this, and it's just like, we'll see you when hockey season's done, and going, yikes, you were setting the pace and the priority for your kid when you put them in those things. Henry's at the age now where, he'll be, he's 5.5, and so he'll be 6 in January, and that's about the time where kids start playing, soccer and all that. And Rachel, like, sports might be good for Henry and socialization and all those things, and but we're trying to figure out what's that balance.
Yeah.
We don't get Henry starting school. Our time with him is going to become less and less. And so school is the law. He has to have school. But he doesn't necessarily have to have 5 games over the weekend. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sacrificing that time, or I'm giving that time where I can invest in my son Christian principles and Christian values and be able to disciple him to maybe this will help him out. And so I'm not saying you don't do sports, but it's you overcorrect and you overreach and you just overstretch. And so balance is the key to all of those things, because you don't want, to stifle natural interests. You liked to cook. You thought you were going to be a film director, or had a desire to be a film director. And what are the odds of that? Enough to where you can support a family. I mean, they're basically next to none.
Absolutely.
But you have to figure that out, because you might be the one. And so we want our kids to go out there and do those things, but not at the expense of family, and certainly not at the expense of time with the Lord. Yeah. If your kid can't come to, Hope High or Hope Middle or Sunday mornings, if you're not reading the Bible, at the end of the day or in the beginning of your morning, whenever it is with your kids, if you're not leading devotions because your schedule's you're just burning through your schedule because you got to get to this game and that game, and you got to get them to this event and that event. They got band practice. You got to slow down. You got to back up. And I think that's the message we're going to be screaming for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's not just kids, it's adults too, right? It's all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all young parents, or we're parents of young kids. I'm an old parent. We're parents of young kids, and it's only going to get busier. I was watching you on Sunday. Rachel and I were talking about this. You were the hardest working man in the room. You want Sarah does, Sarah's the primary homemaker, and so she's always caring for the kids, and so she's out, and you want her to be able to have conversation and be with friends, and so you're like, I'll take the kids, and maybe this isn't a conscious conversation that you guys have, but this is just what I'm observing. I do the same thing with Rachel.
Yeah.
Like, and it's tough because, it's Sunday and we're working, and so people want to, be with us. And at one point there's like 75,000 bees on this thing, and I'm watching Henry. I'm on the phone with Bob. I'm like, can you please make signs and bring them out here? And so you're trying to do all those things, but you have kids that are the age that you can't not watch them, and they just go.
Yep.
You can tell Addie don't, and then she's gone.
Yeah.
And then when she's going to the left, Judah's going to the right. Yeah. And so you're just like, it's like a strongman competition, like holding up those pillars, like, and Ledger's starting to get more mobile. And, Henry's constantly drinks Red Bull, I think. I don't know what his deal is, but he's just, he looked at me, he's like, you want to run up and down this hill? I'm like, not in a million years. I can barely walk right now. I'm exhausted. So you can get so busy even with just caring, just the things that you have to do, that you're not doing the things that you should do as well. And so it really is about finding that balance. So I think those are really important words. So what I'd like to do, if we can, is I want to address something that I think is really important to address. And Jared had sent this to me yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
It was yesterday.
Actually, Sarah's the one that found it.
Okay,
like,
so
hey,
Sarah.
just so you know.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah.
Like,
so the podcast is available on Google Podcast,
Google
Apple
Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify,
Stitcher. You can watch it on YouTube, and you can watch it through the Hope Christian Church app.
Yeah.
And so on one of these services, it's possible for people to leave a review of the podcast and or a particular episode. And we certainly always welcome feedback.
Yeah.
This particular listener, and we don't know who they are, we don't know if they're a regular listener or not, left a review that is public, that people can read.
Yep.
And I think it's really important that we address this because what they're communicating in this review is not anything that we said. Yeah. It's nothing remotely close to what we said, and we wanted to clear up for our listeners, anybody that may go back and listen to episode 19, Penguin Flesh, which maybe we should think about serious titles.
Is it getting out of hand, these weird titles?
Yeah, that's right. Burritos for Jesus.
Burritos for Jesus.
So anybody that might go back, or for anybody that might be looking at the church, and what does this church do? What does this church provide?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people I've heard, like, they wanted to visit the church. They saw we had a podcast. They want to listen to the podcast first to get a feel for us. And if they were to see this, this leaves an impression that, if it's true, oh boy.
If it's true, then this listener is absolutely right.
Yeah.
So why don't I go ahead and just read this, and then I'd like to just address it. And I want to make sure that my natural instinct is to get defensive.
Sure.
Period. To sit here and just hammer and hammer and hammer, and I don't want to do that. I want to move forward in grace and humility, and that's been my prayer since I saw this. But I also want to make sure that we're direct, and this is really interesting. I want you to think about the timing of this in the series we're in now.
Yeah.
Sunday was the third installment of the Sorry Not Sorry, and it's about offering correction to other believers when they're caught in sin. And so there's a few things that I think have to be addressed in this as it relates to that, and I think the Lord's provision is clear in all this. So let me just go ahead and read this. The subject title was Problematic, episode 19. Among other problematic points covered in this episode is the baffling remark that pastors who sexually abuse others shouldn't be necessarily removed from their position. Rape and sexual abuse are crimes, regardless of who commits them. This kind of rhetoric is why so many people are leaving church, and why so many victims in the church feel unseen and cast aside. If this particular episode represents even an iota of what this leadership team at this church values, believes, and preaches, I question the motives and the mission of this church. So these are very strong, very direct words. And the words themselves, I agree with.
Yep.
If there is a church leadership that does not acknowledge and correct biblically, and correcting biblically also means correcting lawfully, legally, and lawfully. Yeah. Someone who has committed a crime whether it is a sexual crime or a non-sexual crime. If a church turns a blind eye to that, and the leadership turns a blind eye to that under the guise that because they are pastors, they don't share the same responsibility as the commoner, then run for the hills.
For real.
Run for the hills. And if that's what any church represents, leave that church.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say a couple of things. If you see a church like that, the correct response, a church that believes that and that is advocating that, the correct response is to do what we've been talking about when it comes to rebuke. Matthew 18, you go to that church leadership directly. You go directly. And you point out the offense. You recognize whether or not the sin is against or violates God's word. Then you recognize your own sin, and then you go to that person privately and begin the conversation. That's the recognized portion. Then you move to rebuke. And in the rebuke phase, as you're pointing out what that person is doing, then there needs to be a call to action. And the call to action is going to be repentance. And then from there, you pick it up either to one of two things, which is either removal or more towards restoration. What you can't do, and this is something that I think needs to be addressed, is you can't post something on a public forum. If the listener really felt that we believe that a person who commits sexual crime shouldn't have to pay for that crime, then the proper response would have been an email directly to me or Jared, a phone call. It's not posting in the public space. And I think it's important to address that because it is entirely possible that if the Lord continues to allow us to podcast over the next however many years, there will be other things that people misinterpret. And I want to make sure part of what I'm going to do today is reinterpret this for this individual if they still listen, and certainly to offer some clarity for anybody else that might have heard something or felt something from the words that we talked about in episode 19. So if you are listening to this, if we say something that is jarring, that you feel is sinful, that even though it's a podcast and even though it's possible to offer a public review, don't. Go to the person privately. If that doesn't work, get one or two others and go back. If that doesn't work, then take it to the church. And what that would mean for Jared and I would be that the other elders would be made aware of the words in question that violated God's word, and then appropriate action would be taken. But let me offer some clarity on this particular episode. Nowhere in this episode do I use the words rape or sexual abuse. At the 57-minute mark, nearly 57 minutes on the dot,
right about there.
I use the word sexual sin. And the point that I was making as it relates to Matthew 18 and what follows suit in accordance to offering correction to believers, whether in the church or out of the church. And I use the phrase, I'm not so sure, many times. I'm not so sure that the immediate response of someone who's caught in sexual sin should be removal. Now, sexual sin is a very broad term. It's a very broad term. Where I might have offered, where I could have done a better job is perhaps defining what I meant by sexual sin in that context, and I will own that. In the moment, it didn't feel necessary because of the things that we were talking about.
Right.
The term sexual sin, to interpret that as rape or sexual abuse, although sexual sin, in my mind, and this is in my mind, seems to be taking a term to its nearly ultimate extreme.
Right.
And I feel like that is an unfair extreme to take the word sexual sin towards. Right at that 57-minute mark, I start to talk about restoration. And when I was talking about sexual sin, I wasn't talking about illegal, unlawful, according to our laws here in this state, sin. I was thinking more along the lines of if someone has an affair, if someone views pornography. And although pornography fuels all kinds of illegal sexual activity, you can watch Game of Thrones and still see pornographic images. Those are pornographic images. And so I felt like it was an unfair categorization when I said sexual sin to throw rape and sexual abuse. Let me make it clear that those are unlawful. Those are crimes, and no person, whether pastor or not, should ever turn a blind eye to those things. Those need to be dealt with, and they need to be dealt with according to the law. And I think a good example of that comes from 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Starting in verse 1, it is actually reported that there is sexual immorality, sexual sin among you, and of a kind, and this is important because Paul is distinguishing that there are different kinds of sexual immorality, and of a kind that is not tolerated even among pagans. So not even non-Christians, Jesus-believing people are going to tolerate this. And he goes on, for a man has his father's wife. And you are arrogant. Ought you not rather to mourn? Let him who has done this, and here it is, be removed from among you. Incest. This is incest. We just covered this in last week's episode.
Yeah.
Incest is unlawful. It doesn't become unlawful until later on in the Old Testament. We talked about Genesis, and then we talked about Leviticus, and where God decides that this is no longer the means by which he will populate the earth.
Yeah.
This individual was committing a crime and should be removed. And we are in full agreement with that. It's in God's word.
Yep.
The point that I was trying to make in episode 19 is that if you've got a person, and I was saying within the church, whether it's a lay member of the church or even if it's a pastor, if you catch them watching pornography, does that mean that they are disqualified for ministry forever? And in that episode at marker 5757, I say if they don't repent, then the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if they're unrepentant. But if they're repentant, then restoration is possible. And at minute 54, I say, but maybe not in the same role.
Right.
It all depends on how people perceive them, because there is a perception in mind. And we can name many of celebrities that are out there that, let me just say one name, Bill Cosby. When you say the name Bill Cosby, no longer does the Cosby Show and comedy and America's Dad come to mind. Something else comes to mind. And so if people know that a pastor had the sexual sin of an affair, or the sexual sin of viewing pornography, or the sexual sin of the sin of an emotional affair, then that's going to change their perception. They may not be able to be restored to their same title or position. Yeah. At minute 59, 22 seconds, I say maybe you have a youth pastor that made a mistake. Perhaps this individual thought I was talking about a youth pastor sexually abusing a child. Once again, that's a crime, abuse of authority, and that needs to be dealt with accordingly. Yeah. In that context, and I continue on, and I say a youth that made a mistake, a lead pastor, whether sexually or anything else. And so in that moment, I widen it to anything else. Greed, right? There's different forms of greed. There's somebody that is greedy that will perhaps withhold money from their spouse because they want to build up a nice nest egg because they want to get themselves a Camaro. That's a form of greed. I'm not going to get my wife, anything, or my children anything. I'm going to be a little selfish and just save this money. And they become greedy over money. But then there's greed that is so greedy that you begin to steal things. You rob a bank. There's degrees of greed, just like there are degrees of sexual sin. All sin.
Yeah.
But sin that can be dealt with in different ways.
Yeah.
No one's going to go to jail because they decide to be stingy and buy a Camaro for themselves and not pay for their kids' college.
Yeah.
But you do go to jail if you knock over a bank. So I start to widen that at minute 59, 22 seconds, whether sexually or anything else. And then I wrap things up right around 59, 60 minutes, talking about there's nuance to all of it. It takes investigation. It takes time. It's situation to situation. So I want to make sure that this listener understands that never in a million years would any of us, any of our staff, any of our elders ever excuse and turn a blind eye to any crime, whether sexual or not, just because we are pastors and elders of a church. And that implication to me is serious enough that I want to hit this head on.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that people understand, this person understands we would never do that.
Yeah.
But I also want them to understand that we need to be a people filled with grace, and that we are to carry one another's burdens. And carrying one another's burdens means that you know their burden. I know many a men that have struggled and have regressed in the area of lust, whether it be pornography or an affair. And the call from Scripture is to come alongside and carry, and there's no way to carry that burden without knowing what that burden is. Yeah. And although having an affair is an abomination and breaks God's law, it does not break the law of the land.
Yeah.
It's not a state law. You break the union. And so is there a way to recover from things like that? I believe that with the Lord, anything is possible, but it's not turning a blind eye, not taking them through the process. Yeah. It's not like, are you sorry? Okay, you're sorry. Get back up there. We would never turn a blind eye to any of those things, whether it's sexual abuse of finances, abuse of authority. I mean, abuse of authority it's one of the most heinous things that happens in the church. I talked about this, on the stage a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
As it related to that relationship between elders and church members. Yeah. How there's this strange dance because pastors have abused their authority. Yeah. And so the other problematic points covered in the episode, I can't address because they didn't address them. But the baffling remark that pastors who sexually abuse others shouldn't be necessarily removed from their position is baffling to me because we never said that.
Yeah, there's no such remark.
There's no such remark. Rape and sexual abuse are crimes regardless. No such remark. Yeah. And I gave these time markers for anybody that wants to go back and listen to the episode. Yeah. And I would encourage you to do that if this is something that you feel requires further investigation. If you require further clarity on this, if you are the listener and you have continued to listen to the podcast, my email is neilnemeth@hopechristianchurch.com. Reach out to me. I will meet with you anytime, any hour, any day. I will have an additional person in that meeting with me, which we often do for accountability. And I am more than happy to open this up and offer some clarity to you on this. My heart is sad that that's what this person took away from this and received it. My hope would have been a response that was filled with joy, because forgiveness and restoration is what our Lord asks us to do when possible. Yeah. But are there cases where it's not possible? We'll just ask Paul in 1 Corinthians 5. Yeah, get them out. Yeah. I'll finish with this. This Sunday, we're finishing up the Sorry Not Sorry sermon series. And we're finishing up the last step in this process. And it is literally exactly what we're talking about today. What does it mean to treat someone as a pagan or a tax collector? And I think that often we feel like it means we just reject people and remove them. But we're going to take a look at how Jesus treated pagans and tax collectors. And I think this will hopefully open some eyes as to what we do. I hear so many stories of things like, I have a family member that's a homosexual, and we told him that, or told her that, this is not what the Lord has, and they haven't repented. And so, they're gone. They're not invited to Christmas anymore.
Right.
And maybe that was the right thing to do, but maybe it wasn't. Remember, there's nuance to everything. And part of what is the challenge of doing something in this platform is you can't cover all of it.
No.
And so as our listeners continue to hear what the Lord hopefully is leading us to do through this podcast, I would ask them for grace. I would ask them for the benefit of the doubt. I hope by now, if you've been around this church for a while, you know the heart of your pastors. It is our desire to honor the Lord, and I think we have championed God's word, and we are slaves to it. And if we are wrong, boy, I would be more than happy to admit that and ask for forgiveness and repent, and would ask for that restoration.
Yeah.
In this case, we were not wrong.
No.
We never said those things. We never advocated those things.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm here, none of us ever will.
Yeah. Now, going back to what you originally said, what this person is saying is not wrong. Like
absolutely not.
We agree with them.
Yeah.
The sad thing is you could almost say like, hey, like you could be forgiven if your mind kind of thought of those things in, when you think of sexual sin within the church, especially when it comes to pastors and elders and stuff. Yeah. It's so sad that we continue to hear stories and hear of, even denominations at large.
Sure.
Southern Baptists, that report that came out a number of months ago about sexual abuse and stuff that has been covered up, that was not dealt with and stuff like that. And so
Hillsong.
Yeah. The Hillsong thing.
Sure.
It's everywhere, because there's sinful guys who they're put in leadership, and whether or not they should have been at the forefront, whatever,
No way to know.
whatever breakdown happened, whether it was merely them personally or if it was a systemic breakdown or whatever that allowed sin to run rampant. We need to grieve that, and we should be upset by that. And if this were truly said in that episode, we should all be broken over that. It wasn't. And I'm glad we were able to address that, and I'm glad we were able to have this conversation. But I wish, like you, we could have had this conversation face to face, or at least in a more personal way.
Well, that's where the breakdown is. I agree with what this listener posted, but how they communicated that was in violation of Matthew 18.
Yeah.
They believe that we were in sin, and they should have come to us privately. And so again, I offer that encouragement to all of our listeners. If we have been open books, and I have, from the stage, from the podcast, I have welcomed. If something isn't sitting right, my schedule is a little packed, but I'll get you in.
Yeah.
Like we'll get you in, and we would love to talk to you about these things, to offer clarity. So what they said, certainly fine and certainly true if that's how leadership believes run for the hills.
Yeah.
But the modality with which they communicated that information, again, was not in accordance with what the scriptures teach.
Yeah.
So, Chad, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got thoughts on this?
On this, I would just suggest to the listener to go back to minute 57 with this context and listen to it again, and hopefully there's a new perspective.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's more clear.
Yeah, it's good.
And call us. Email me at markmattingly@hopechristianchurch.com.
That's good.
Fantastic.
Hey, there's one other thing that I want to cover. We had a question that said, hey, is the atrium a week behind? We were accustomed to hearing the atrium talk about the previous Sunday versus 2 weeks back. Did this adjust? Example, Stoic Kisses was published last week, but the sermon 2 weeks ago, groups instead of the first part of Sorry Not Sorry series. And we have heard you. We've heard many of you.
We have.
We've heard many of you. So
many of you, many of our wives.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the reasons that we had the week delay was because part of sorry, Bob was calling me. I just ignored his call. I'm sure he's fine. And Bob, if you're listening, I just ignored your call. The delay was there because it's a lot of work to edit the podcast, but not just a lot of work to edit the podcast. It takes forever to upload it.
Yeah.
And so Jared needed some more equipment, some new better equipment. And so now he's able to do that much quicker. The editing is still going to take some time, but we feel like it's important to have the podcast be as close to Sunday as
so there's
possible.
a technical necessity no longer needed. So we are with this episode, we're going kind of back to week of.
Right.
And I mean,
so if you're listening to this, I just preached about repentance on Sunday.
Yeah.
And next week we'll kind of wrap up the series.
And I think you and me prefer it that way.
I
It makes
do,
it
too.
it makes it more fresh.
Yeah,
You know,
for
it makes
sure.
it more So I'm excited that we're able to do this and kind of go back to it. And
Thank you for your patience and willingness to
That's the nice thing
through it.
about the listeners is like, you know, they'll come to you on Sunday morning and just be like, hey. And you're like, immediate feedback is
Great.
helpful.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's great.
You know?
So-
And so I appreciate this question. Yeah. So if you are listening to this, and it's Thursday and it's been released, we recorded it on Tuesday just a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And so we are back on schedule. After Sunday, we'll record on Tuesday, release on Thursdays, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts for your first podcasting experience here on the Atrium?
You guys are just stellar. This is fantastic.
Oh, come on.
Great host.
You get out of here.
What I will say
This is
now,
why we brought him on.
This is why.
Butter him up.
Butter them up, baby.
That's right.
What I will say with that schedule is that Hope High for 9th through 12th grade students is starting this
I
Sunday,
knew this was coming.
7 to
Hijack.
9 p.m.
Check me out in the latest Gardens of the Galaxy.
Are you following me on Instagram?
Would you guys let me plug? Okay, so yeah, there it is. Hope High.
Hope High.
Hope High.
Get
this
to Hope
Sunday.
High. Look how
Get to Hope High.
snazzy this guy is.
Hope Middle.
From this angle, there's a perfect listing of the lights in your eyes, and it's like I wish I had a camera angle.
Where's
right
my
here.
camera? Let me talk
Beautiful.
to the kid. Listen up, kiddos.
Listen up, kiddos.
Look how snazzy this young man is.
Come on.
He's got Vans, shoes, and he knows about fonts.
He knows about fonts. Come on.
Kids like fonts, right?
That's right. Hope Middle. Next
All the
Wednesday,
rage with the
August
kids these
31st.
days.
Here's how you get kids
6
to
to 8
Hope
p.m.
Middle. Pastor Neal won't be there.
There you go.
It's just gonna be Chad and the gang.
There it
This
is.
guy doesn't
Chad
know
and the
anything
gang.
about us. You're into fonts, right?
Right?
You ever heard of Helvetica? Pretty good. Heard of Helvetica New?
We use Avenir Next LT Pro,
That's right, baby.
so we don't want to brag.
Quiet.
but
You're going to get them too excited. They have to wait till Sunday night.
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
So just
Seriously,
put up
though.
a graphic during
Right.
this.
Right. Just mute my mic during this. No, really, I really do think that kids, adjust your schedules. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to honor your mother and your father. You want to honor your mom and your dad. Hang on a second here.
You got to love your mother and your father.
I wanted to say mom.
I'm going to
so
speak like
bad.
that for the rest of the day in your
You
honor.
jacked me up the other day with your explanation of that.
Mother.
Listen up here. Honor your honor your mother.
What did I do, eh?
What did I do? Likely you want to go. You should go. Adjust your schedule. Make the right decision. Prioritize these things. I think it's really important because what you're doing now is you're setting up the pace forever.
Yeah.
When I was doing personal training, when I would get like an athlete in, like 17, 18-year-old, I was so excited because I'm like, you're setting up habits for the future.
Yeah.
And so if church becomes a secondary thing for you now, or even further down on the list, it's just going to get even worse. Prioritize it. Get to Hope High, get to Hope Middle, and I think it'd be a great thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Amen.
Just ask your mother.
Your mother. Your father. Wow.
I'm fading, boys. Let's wrap it up.
Let's do it. Thanks for being on, man.
Thank you,
It was
Chad.
really great
This
having
is
you
great.
join us. And if you have any questions for the podcast, you can submit those to podcast@hopechristianchurch.com, or you can text them to 440.
Oh, please join us.
We'll redo that for you. Do you want to join
wanna
us on that one?
Hope 222.
I'm good.
Really?
You got it.
Wow.
I'm good.
I guess this is how it
I
ends.
stopped in the middle of the note. I have to say it anyways, all
don't know
over
the
again,
number.
and he's not going to. Okay.
It's Hope 222.
My Lord.
It's literally, you have
help
to
us.
remember one number 3 times.
Make your face shine upon us.
We can do this.
You can text your questions to 440 HOPE 222.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
All right, see ya.